On the world news, India hospital fire kills 13 people. Pfizer confirms fake versions of vaccine in Poland and Mexico. 3 abducted Catholic clergy released in Haiti. Good afternoon, welcome to the World News on ITV. I am Blessing Aichi. President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned the latest killings by bandits in Zamfara state, vowing that such disregard for life will be brought to an end soon. The president, in a reaction to the incident of banditry in the state, stressed that the persistent violence against innocent Nigerians must stop. President Buhari directed the military, security and intelligence agencies to take immediate steps to close all existing gaps in the operations being exploited by criminals to wreak havoc. He also expressed hope that the special operation launched by the military on Thursday from Mari local government area would prove decisive in ridding the state of what he called the frequent and horrifying bandit activities. President Muhammadu Buhari has met with some state governors from the northern part of the country over the worrisome state of insecurity in the northern part of the country. Itv State House correspondent Ikaruata reports that the president assured them of his commitment to end insecurity in the country.
Insecurity in northern Nigeria seems to be dominating media reports and discourse for a long time now. Boko Haram insurgents are hitting targets in the northeast. The northwestern states are daily witnessing kidnappings and other attacks by armed bandits. This, no doubt, is why President Muhammadu Buhari met with some governors from the northern part of the country at the presidential villa. The governors were led by the chairman of the Northern Governors Forum and Plateau State Governor Simon Lalong. Also in attendance was the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari. The governors took turn to narrate their experiences, individual efforts at finding lasting solutions, as well as expectations from the federal government. Speaking to State House correspondents on the purpose of the meeting, Governor Lalong said they came to discuss ways at ending insecurity in the north.
This meeting is in respect of some of the common features of insecurity that we have within our states. You recall that many of the states have some of the insecurities that are very similar. So within us here, we have a lot of them that are similar. We put them together on how to address some of those issues. And we felt that we must also meet Mr. President about it. It's about the insecurity.
Asked the key takeaways from the meeting, the chairman of the Northern Governors Forum says they got the president's assurance to tackle insecurity.
The meeting with the president was very fruitful, and we are also very committed, and we have seen a lot of commitments, so we're waiting for the implementation.
A day before the governor's visit, armed men attacked a private school in Kaduna, killed a staff, and abducted an undisclosed number of undergraduates. From the Asarok Presidential Villa, Eharo Atta, ITV News, Abuja.
The Nigeria Labour Congress has threatened to embark on a nationwide strike over what it describes as unlawful dismissal of civil servants by the Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai. NLC President Ayuba Waba disclosed this at a news conference in Abuja after a meeting of the Central Working Committee. It said all members of the NLC were down tools nationwide for 5 days in the first instance, and when nothing is done by relevant government agencies, the workers' union will think of the next line of action. Waba explained that the union's plan for a nationwide strike over El-Rufai's action is predicated on the assumption that the governor is having support from other states and the federal governments. Meanwhile, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Tanko Muhammad, says it was difficult for him to fault the reasons that compelled members of the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria, JUSUN, to embark on a nationwide strike. The CJN made the remarks when he met with leaders of JUSUN over the lingering strike that has crippled all Nadran courts for weeks. He commended the leadership of the union for following due process so far to protest against what it described as injustice to the workers. Justice Muhammad, however, urged the workers to suspend the strike to enable the state governors to meet their demands. Members of the union had embarked on the nationwide strike to press home their demand for the implementation of the constitutional provision that confers financial independence on the judiciary. The House of Representatives has mandated its Committee on Human Rights to investigate the illicit trade in human organs. The resolution followed a motion moved by Representative Shawalu Kwewum on the need to take drastic steps to curb the menace. The reports.
For some years now, the Nigerian government has been evacuating thousands of Nigerians stranded in other countries. Most of them, according to their stories, were deceived by friends, family members, or loved ones into believing the grass is greener on the other side. The stories that usually follow these evacuees are gory tales of inhuman treatment by their so-called employers. While those evacuated are lucky to be alive, sadly the story is not the same with several others. Lawmakers are concerned that the trend has taken a different dimension as some human parts are found in a refrigerator seized in a cargo ship to China.
About 2 weeks ago, acting on information provided by an anonymous source, Chinese authorities seized a ship that sailed from Nigeria with 7,200 refrigerated penises, which were found in 36 boxes labeled as plantain on a ship that harbored at the Shanghai port. The House also notes that the Chinese General Administration of Customs had alerted that an increasingly large number of armed groups in Africa use human organs which are harvested in unsanitary conditions to finance their nefarious activities.
The insecurity in the country is obviously another factor which they say aid and abates the dastardly act.
The increasing cases of missing persons, ritual killings and trafficking of persons out of the country may be linked to the red market, which can be attributed to the trafficking of young men and women who end up being victims of human organ harvesting. Aware also that the increased banditry, kidnappings, and spiraling violence in several parts of the country today make those parts of the country vulnerable and provide safe havens and ready supply channels for these illicit activities.
The House is also concerned that it takes a trained medical surgeon to perform such operation, as well as the huge profits made in the business.
The perpetrators of this illicit trade, by the year 2009, were generating between $600 million to $1.2 million profit annually and have been encouraged by poor security situation to use the third world as major suppliers.
The Committee on Human Rights, National Security and Intelligence are expected to investigate the matter and report back within 10 days. Charity Tanko, ITV News, Abuja.
The crucial role of the informal sector in growth of Nigerian economy was the focus of the 18th inaugural lecture of the Nigeria Premier Private University, Igbenedion University, Okada. Deborah Ugbefon reports that the lecture was delivered by the Deputy Vice Chancellor of the institution, Professor Deborah Omoshefe Odejimi.
The 18th in the series of lectures in the university is titled, "They May Be Small But Hold the Ace for Economic Growth, the Relevance of the Informal Sector in Nigeria." The Vice-Chancellor, Professor Lawrence Ikechukwu-Ezimoye, said the lecture series is to provide interface for the purpose of the national development while welcoming principal officers of the school, guests and students to the lecture.
An inaugural lecture for all members is a significant and a landmark event for the academia. It provides professors opportunity to showcase their competence, their knowledge, and the work they've been doing in the academia. It also provides opportunity for town and gown.
Professor Deborah Odejimi said in the lecture that the informal sector is an integral part of the global economy because it accounts for over 60% of employment in the world. Professor Odejimi said the high rate of unemployment in the country has led to so many social vices.
Employment has become a major problem, deadening the lives of Nigerians, causing incidents, militancy, violent crimes, kidnapping, restlessness. This is devastating to psychologically and economically both to the individuals and to the society. Yeah.
Professor Odejimi urged governments at all levels to regulate the informal sector to make it taxable as a way of raising funds to develop the country.
Tax evasion robs the country of needed funds and the ability to provide basic social amenities for the population. No government can provide infrastructural facilities like electricity, good hospitals, quality education, etc., without the contribution of the masses in the form of taxes. The informal sector stands to benefit maximally from government intervention in the provision of basic infrastructural facilities, hence the need for tax mobilization.
She said the lockdown, travel ban and other restrictions to curtail the spread of the novel coronavirus as well as poor palliative spread negatively affected the already bad economic situation in the country.
The sudden incident of the pandemic greatly worsened the already precarious economic situation in the country. Massive job loss and livelihood characterized the period of lockdown, especially for those in the informal sector who live on daily income.
Some guests commended Professor Deborah Odejimi for the educative lecture, saying it was most timely.
Quite enlightening and a lot of knowledge to derive from the lecture.
Without taxes, I'm not sure any society can fully be functional.
The government should put some of these measures to try to encourage the informal sector for the growth of the economy.
We also want the government to implement some of the measures she has advocated.
Yeah, the lecture was great.
High point of the inaugural lecture was a presentation of medal to the lecturer by the Vice Chancellor, Professor Lawrence Ezemoye. Deborah Ogbefun reporting.
There was a terrible gridlock yesterday on failed portions on the Benin bypass by RCC on the Sapele road axis as residents protested against reluctance by relevant authorities to address the problem. Sharon Ajayi reports that the protesters threatened to continue to block the busy road until government heed to their demands.
Residents of the affected communities on the Benin-Sapele road bypass from Owowobi to Obaiti barricaded the busy road to press home their demands. The protest, though peaceful, caused a serious vehicular traffic jam, forcing travelers and other road users to complete their journey on foot. Motorists, especially commercial vehicles, resorted to adjoining streets to beat the gridlock. The protesters said it's most painful to see a major road which is of great economic importance to the nation and one of the busiest within the South-South geopolitical zone abandoned for years. They said the deplorable condition of the road has also paralyzed socio-economic activities in the area.
This is the road that leads to Warri, Sapele, Port Harcourt, and all where the oil are coming from. And they have all been abandoned. Our cars have become canoe, swimming on a daily basis. We have become regular visitors to mechanic workshop. Dangote Cement Depot, since he came here, that has been the problem.
This road must be done. We are not living here. Tomorrow we are going to protest. Tomorrow the governor, I feel like I'm going to send delegates to us here. We are here. We
have been passing through hardship. We cannot go to our various places of work. Our children cannot go to school. Even our pregnant women, they are delivering on the road. We cannot continue like this. That's the reason we are appealing to the relevant agency to come to our aid, to come and help us to fix the road.
This is Sapele Road, Niger Delta, where the oil is coming from. The roads are bad. We are tired in living in our father's land, in our mother's land, like slaves. We don't want that anymore.
For residents in a bid to further express their displeasure, walked into the stagnant water on one side of the road, which has become impassable. Men of the Nigerian police were on the ground to ensure the protest doesn't degenerate into anarchy. It, however, became a shouting match when the police tried to pacify the protesters to open the barricades for vehicles to pass. The protesters also alleged that their ordeal became compounded since Dangote moved its warehouse to the area and called for their relocation. As at the time of this report, barricades were still on the road and traffic on a standstill. Sharon Ajayi reported.
Delta State Governor Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa has urged all aggrieved persons involved in selecting the new Olu of Warri Kingdom to sheath their swords and support the overall development of Insecurity people. The governor stated this when members of the Olu of Warri Advisory Council visited him at Government House, Asaba. Asaba correspondent Austin Azu has details.
On Monday, 5th April 2021, at the ancestral home of Insecurity Nation, Ode Shekiri, the Big Warri, the Iyashere of Warri Kingdom, Chief Johnson Asuroge, on behalf of the Insecurity National Assembly, formally announced the demise of the 20th Olu of Warri, His Royal Majesty Ogiame Ikewole. He also introduced the Olu designate Prince Shola Emiko to the people. 1 month and a week later, the Olu Advisory Council, led by the Iyasere of Warri Kingdom, Chief Johnson Omashaye, are here at Government House Asaba to officially inform Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of the demise of His Royal Majesty Ogiame Ikewole and the enthronement of the new Olu designate. Governor Kowa condoled with the Insecurity Nation in the state on the passing of their monarch, Ogiame Ikewole. He said the former Olu of Warri built bridges across ethnic divides, contributed immensely to the peace and development of not only Warri Kingdom, but the state and the country. The governor congratulated the Olu designate Prince Emiko and called on the Insecurity people to give him their full support. He called on the leader of the Advisory Council to do its best to unite everyone and ensure that there was peace in Warri Kingdom.
And I thank God for the life, Royal Majesty, who has passed the great beyond, now the immediate past Olu. And I pray that the Insecurity Kingdom will continue to remain in peace, because he was a man that sought for peace and truly worked for it.
Earlier, delegation, which spoke through Chief Brand Mene, said its visit was to intimate the governor on the demise of the Warri monarch and enthronement of a new one.
Of course, the process on other things that we will do, including the finalization of the funeral rites of His Majesty who has left us, at the conclusion of which we will then have the new king.
The delegation also condoled with the governor on the demise of his father, Pa Arthur Okore, who died in January. High points of the visit was the presentation of a letter to the governor, formally notifying him of the demise of the monarch. From Asaba, Austin Azu reporting.
You're watching the World News on Independence Television. Still to come, Pfizer confirms fake versions of vaccine in Poland and Mexico. You can watch ITV News on Roku TV in UK, America, Africa, and other parts of Europe, and also on Smart TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Android TV. You can view us on TSTV on channel 364 nationwide, on StarTimes channel 130 and GoTV channel 107. Follow us also on our Twitter handle at ITV Radio NG, on YouTube at youtube.com/ITV Radio NG. Visit our website for more stories and live streaming at itvradionageria.com/live. On Facebook at facebook.com/ITV Radio NG. On Instagram at ITV NG. Download ITV app from your mobile Play Store. Please stay tuned. Moving out to the foreign scene, at least 13 patients have died after a fire broke out in the intensive care unit of an Indian hospital treating COVID patients near Mumbai. The blaze, which took place early this morning, was extinguished and 4 survivors have been moved to nearby hospitals. Roslyn Ewuramin has details.
The fire happened at the Vijay Villa Hospital in the Vara area of the western state of Maharashtra, which is about 70 kilometers north of Mumbai. It remains unclear how the blaze started, and Maharashtra Chief Minister has ordered an inquiry. The incident comes amid a deadly second wave of infections in India. The spike has overwhelmed hospitals, creating a critical shortage of oxygen, beds at intensive care units and ventilators. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has offered condolences on Twitter, describing the incidents as tragic. Today, India recorded 332,730 coronavirus cases, the highest one-day tally seen anywhere in the world for the second day in a row. Daily death toll from COVID-19 rose by a record of 2,263 in the previous 24 hours. The rising numbers of cases has resulted in a deepening healthcare crisis that has gripped several states in India. Mr. Modi is due to hold meetings with chief ministers of the most affected states and oxygen manufacturers today. Roslyn Ewuramin reporting.
France Health Minister Olivier Véran said that France would begin offering the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which requires only a single shot, from Saturday to people from age 55 and above. In a bid to prevent new, more contagious coronavirus variants from taking hold in the country, France will impose from Saturday a 10-day quarantine on travelers arriving from Argentina, Brazil, Chile, India, and South Africa. Travelers from those countries will have to provide proof of where they will be quarantined and will be subject to controls, while people in quarantine will only be allowed to go outside between 10 a.m. and noon and could face fines of up to 1,500 euros for breaching quarantine. France is currently under its third lockdown to stem the coronavirus, but this time it has been considerably more relaxed than the previous ones, with outdoor activities encouraged to promote mental health. U.S. pharmaceutical company Pfizer says it has identified counterfeit versions of its coronavirus vaccine in Mexico and Poland. The doses were seized by authorities in the two countries and confirmed by tests to be fake. Pfizer said in Mexico they had false labels, while the substance in Poland was believed to be anti-recall treatment. About 80 people at a clinic in Mexico received a fake version of the drug, which appeared to have been physically harmless but offered no protection against coronavirus. However, the World Health Organization has warned that fake vaccines pose a serious risk to global public health and called for them to be identified and removed from circulation. U.S. President Joe Biden has said that he would launch an international climate finance plan to help underwrite the transition to a decarbonized global economy as he presided over a virtual summit of world leaders. The U.S. president described the idea of combating climate change as a moral imperative. Thomas Sadu has details.
Participants in the summit include Chinese President Xi Jinping, Russian President Vladimir Putin, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and German Chancellor Angela Merkel, among other leaders. President Biden picked Rick Spinrad, an oceanographer with decades of science and policy experience, to run the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the government leading agency for weather, climate, and ocean science. The White House announced Spinrad's selection along with several additional climate and environmental nominees, including Tracy Stone Manning, a senior advisor for the National Wildlife Federation, tapped to lead the Interior Department's Bureau for Land Management. In one of the most surreal summit meetings ever, President Biden hosted more than 40 world leaders in a bid to restore the United States' damaged diplomatic reputation and to rally nations around the globe to make deeper cuts to greenhouse gas emissions. Joe Biden's kicked off the meeting, promising to cut U.S. emissions to half of their 2005 levels by the end of the decade. Several other world leaders also pledged to speed up cuts to their own emissions, restore forests, phase out coal plants, and put people to work building wind turbines and solar panels. The summit is expected to end later today.
The United States sets out on the road to cut greenhouse gases in half by the end of this decade. That's where we're headed as a nation. And that's what we can do if we take action to build an economy that's not only more prosperous, but healthier, fair, and cleaner for the entire planet. You know, these steps will set America on a path of net zero emissions economy by no later than 2050.
Thomas Sado reporting.
Dozens of people have been injured in violent clashes in East Jerusalem between far-right Jewish activists, Palestinians and Israeli police. Roslyn Ewuramed reports that hundreds of ultra-nationalist Jews shouting death to Arabs confronted Palestinian demonstrators at the city's Damascus gate late on Thursday.
The police, who were trying to keep the two groups apart, used stone grenades and tear gas against the protesters, some of whom threw stones and bottles. A number of people were arrested in the protest. A Palestinian Red Crescent said at least 100 Palestinians were injured, including 21 who needed hospital treatment. Tensions have been rising for several days in East Jerusalem. Palestinians accused the police of trying to prevent them from holding their usual Ramadan evening gatherings outside Damascus gates, an historic landmark of Jerusalem's world old city. The police warned they would act firmly against violence and riots of all kinds. The status of Jerusalem goes to the heart of Israelis' conflict with the Palestinians. The city is home to key religious sites sacred in Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, especially in East Jerusalem. Israel occupied the sector previously occupied by Jordan in the 1967 Middle East War and regards the entire city as its indivisible capital. The Palestinians claim East Jerusalem as the capital of a future state, and its final statue is meant to be the subject of future negotiations. Roslyn Ewuramed reporting.
3 members of the Catholic clergy kidnapped in Haiti earlier this month have been released. It is not known whether any ransom has been paid. The attack happened when the Catholic clergy were on their way to the installation of a new parish priest. 7 other people, including a French nun and a French priest abducted in the town of Croix-de-Bouquets, remain in captivity. The kidnappers had demanded $1 million as a ransom payment after they seized the group on 11 April. Haiti's President, Jovenel Moïse, has vowed to do everything the law allows to secure their release. The U.S. military is sending airborne assistance to aid Indonesian search for a missing submarine with 53 crew. Indonesian authorities estimate they have just hours left to find the Navy submarine before the oxygen runs out. The KRI Nanggala 402 disappeared on Wednesday during exercises off the coast of Bali, sparking a frantic search to locate the stricken vessel. An oil slick where it was thought to have submerged suggested damage to a fuel tank may have been a factor. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby said by the turn of events, at least 6 warships, a helicopter, and 400 people have since been involved in the search. Singapore and Malaysia have dispatched ships to the area, and Australia, France, and Germany have also offered assistance. In another development, there is no additional DNA damage in children born to parents who were exposed to radiation from the Chernobyl explosion before they were conceived. This is according to the first study to screen the genes of children whose parents were enlisted to help in the cleanup after the nuclear accidents. Participants all conceived after the disaster and born between 1987 and 2002 had their whole genomes screened. The study found no mutations that were associated with the parents' exposure. The findings are published in the journal Science. Let's turn now to sports. Atletico Madrid returned to the top of La Liga with a win over Oscar 24 hours after withdrawing from the European Super League. Real Madrid had replaced neighbors Atletico at the summit after a 3-0 victory over Cadiz. Atletico had apologized to fans for causing confusion after ending their involvement in the breakaway European Super League. They are chasing a first La Liga title since 2014, but still have to play title rivals Barcelona away on 8th May. Huesca are 18th on the table, 1 point from safety with 6 games remaining. To end the world news on independent television, a look again at the highlights. At least 13 patients have died after a fire broke out in the intensive care unit of an Indian hospital treating COVID patients near Mumbai. The blaze, which took place early this morning, was extinguished after 4 survivors have been moved to nearby hospitals. And on behalf of the news producer, Rosalind Ewuramen, I am Blessing AHA. Thank you for watching. Good afternoon.
Independent television, certainly the best.
How you go stay for 4 days without food inside this house? I don't hear anything today. You must give me that money.
Mr. Daddy, why you want to use hunger kill your wife? I used to take care of my family 100% until when something can happen. Wetin happen? They send me text message say bank don't block my account number. Say I never complete my BVN registration. They say I call the number where did that text message. I can't call them. They say I send them my ATM number and the number where did the back of the ATM, including the expiring date. I can't text everything sent to them. The next thing I see, na alert. They begin to beat my account until they finish the whole account. You don't fall Mugu with that.
Oga, wetin now come in now?
It means say your husband, you don't dupe am.
Hey!
My country people, if anybody send on a text message or email say make una send on a ATM or BVN number, no send them because na thief them be. Anybody where they use internet, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter or personal mobile phone, fee fall Mugu. No share your ATM pin, password or personal information online. Shine your eyes on cyber criminals full internet.
Voices, we're talking about the news and issues you're talking about, sharing stories of development and growth across Africa, around the world, and in our lives. Topics that inform, empower, and change the rules. It's time for Our Voices with me, Haiti Adams Fitzpatrick,
and Hadiza Kiari,
and Ayan Bior,
and Orion Itangi Shaka. Join us on Facebook at VOA Our Voices, and each week right here on ITV.
It's time for Our Voices.
Richard didn't want to die, but he couldn't stop himself. The collision with the car didn't kill him, but he wasn't wearing a